Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everybody. 77s once again, coming at you guys with another video. I think today we're going to be discussing the real relationship between your fourth function and your first function. Okay. Um, I guess I don't really know what personality type I'm going to use. Yeah, I'll just use, let's say, let's do a good one. Um, let's do the ISTJ, shall we? You guys already know. Forgive the handwriting. Of course, we're going to start with SI and the coveted TE. And of course, can't forget FI. And this is where I kind of want to stop because this is the pivotal area. I don't think I've gone over this. Maybe, one of you guys that's watched my videos can tell me. The first, second, and third function have a very interesting relationship, in my opinion, and in my study. Um, Let me see if I can quickly do it. And you guys will just have to replay and go back and forth later on. But it's the primary mode of processing. Yeah, I've talked about it. But it's kind of in an interesting way, the first, second, and third functions to me. Because how it works is you have your first function here, and you have your third function, right? And these guys kind of, as far as your primary mode of processing, they kind of create a, kind of like a swirl, if you will. This is how the ISTJ primarily processes information. And we already know that mode is five senses. I have talked about this. As the sensor, that's all they got. That is all they have. Okay, go watch one of my other videos on that if you want to know more. Okay, so now with the second function here, it's been interesting because these guys process, but in the middle is TE, right? And what TE will kind of do, well, it's more of SI and FI kind of, kind of receiving, you know, as well, let me rephrase that another way. As SI, retrieves information, you know, mixed with the personal feelings of the ISTJ. So they're going to take this information and they're going to figure out the best way they can TE that information, you know. So, like, for example, if you have, somebody that's, a student or, a worker, at a job anywhere, you know, on their first day, they're going to be using SI to be taking in the information. And then they may want to go, well, with the information that I have, I think I can, I feel like I can move up to the next level. Okay. So then TE will get involved because, well, actually, it's all working at the same time because as the ISTJ is taking in information, they're FIing that information along with TE. Okay. So it's more of the passion of it's the five senses as far as the information they're retrieving with their personal passions. And then with their personal passions, TE gets involved and says, how can we make a practical framework or execute the biddings or the passions of FI? Okay. So that's kind of how this dynamic works. And if you want me to make a video to go more in depth on this dynamic between the first, second, and third functions, please comment. I will do so. But I'm just doing this, kind of as a preface for the sake of this video. So now we're going to move on to the fourth function. And as you can see, it's a little bit lower. And here we're going to draw this guy. And then the shadow line will go right in between the fourth function. Okay? Because in my study, this is actually where the fourth function resides. Right on the shadow line. Or it's the hinge itself between the first four functions and the shadow. Okay? Now, I've been studying the MBTI since March of 2023. I have never seen any human being write this line like this. Now, if hopefully I can do this right. Okay? And this is what happens. The bottom of it is actually in the shadow. Okay? So actually, this is how it sort of works. And then we go into SE. Then we have TI. And I really wanted this to be a really quick video. I don't want to take too much time. I know I always say that. But I really mean it this time. Um, just wanted to quickly show you guys the dynamic, or actually the relationship between the fourth function and the first three. Okay, so then you can also say, now that we got that out of the way, you can also say there's another line of, another relationship between NE and SI. Okay, another dynamic. This is what I call the control dynamic. And I will be making another video to go more in depth on this dynamic. Okay. SE and I control dynamic. Did I spell that right? It doesn't look right. DYN dynamic. I hope there's not a K on the end. Okay. So there's also, like I said, another dynamic here. Another control dynamic here. And here. And of course, the middle two functions support this control. Okay. So that's how that works. And we got I like to use red and black for kind of shadow. or nefarious shadow activity or activity that's not very nice, as I know when they all happen. So, and this is this first, second, and third. This dynamic is the same with this one. I just did it once, so you can put this in the first three of any first four, whether it be the shadow, or the ego, or subconscious, or superconscious, or super ego. Doesn't matter. It's the same dynamic. But wanted to highlight the the first three. This is I'm using the ISTJ for example. This dynamic you can use for any function, not any function, but any personality type. This is any personality type right here. But specifically, the control dynamic is if you have SI and NE and SE and NI. And there's a reason for this control dynamic here. There's a reason for it. Sensors don't know that I know, but I know exactly why they need this. And they use it unconsciously. Ooh, I almost spelled that wrong. Yep. And we all know what where the unconscious resides, which means that this is involved. Okay. I don't know how much time I have left, but I'm pretty sure I'm in good shape. Yeah, just to summarize, this is the same here. And like I said, the video was mainly about the dynamic or the relationship between the first three functions and the fourth. The fourth is actually on the shadow line. So you got you got 50%, positive NE, and you got half of it that's laced with the shadow aspect of NE, paranoia, things like that, fear of future, possibilities, consequences, what have you. So rather than, the positive aspect, which is more the opposite of that, which is, limitless possibilities, limitless potential, things of that nature. You know, that's more of what positive NE is. So, but just to quickly summarize, we got the first function, SI, it's gathering its five senses information. And we got SI's passion here, whatever it's passionate about, or its personal feelings, so it's taking in the information with its five senses and going, FI, what do we want to do with what we are gathering? Okay. So let's say if, like I said, if that's wanting to be a manager, okay, then as this ISTJ works, their TE is working with them. So as they're gathering this information, TE is optimizing it, strategizing it in the background as it gets the information. Okay. So as to prevent a future any disaster. Okay. And I'll give you kind of a little bit of a tiny example. So we all know that, we all get up, we have to go to work and things like that. So a little mini example of SI, you know, doing its due diligence to prevent any disaster. For example, Monday morning, you have to be at work at 9 a.m. What are you going to do? If you're asleep, you're setting an alarm, right? That's an SI. That's SI telling you, hey, why don't we set the alarm so we can wake up on time to get to work to prevent any chaos, like running late or waking up late, or we have to work at 9 and we're actually waking up at 10 or 11. That is kind of a mini example of preventing any chaos. So um, I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, I wanted this video to be quick. But yeah, this is the control dynamic as well. And this is the ISTJ with their first three functions and their fourth, and the relationship between their first three functions and their fourth. Like I said, for any type, you can put their first four functions in, and it's the same. So their first and third function is the primary mode of processing, and whatever is in between is kind of, I guess, you could say, retrieving the energy, retrieving the information as well to optimize it. We're speaking an example of TE. It's gathering the information or analyzing the information of SI and FI to execute the feelings or what FI is wanting to do, or namely SI and FI want to do. So, like I said, that's being a manager. So, SI is going to work every day. It's working on the FI is in the background. It's going to be diligent at work because its passion is to be a manager. So, not only is that passion driving the ISTJ, but as it works, the passion and everything like that, TE is also, taking in that information, not only to become a manager, but to make changes and strategize on how to make the systems better, to improve them. Efficiency. That is what TE will bring to the table with SI and FI in this type of scenario. So, but yeah, that's the video. I hope it was informative. Um, if you can, pass it around to someone you know and enlighten them. All right, that's going to do it for now. If you guys want to like, that would be great. Don't really ask for likes because it's not about that for me. It's about getting the content out. So, but I did ask anyway, so that's kind of funny. But anyway, thank you guys for checking out the content. And this is 70 Severance signing out.